All right, guys, welcome back to the Within Tolerance podcast. This is episode 10, and I'm once again joined by Dylan. And this is just going to be a normal podcast. We're hoping to have a guest on next week, so look out for that. But this is just going to be us two talking about job shop life. I know Dylan's had a very relaxing weekend, so he probably is going to talk about that a little bit. But yeah, other than that, I guess let's just get into it. How has Dylan been?
Good, yeah. Welcome everybody to episode 10. I can't believe we've made it that far already. It does not seem like that much time has passed.
Yeah.
It's pretty fun. But yeah, things have been going well. I took an extra long Labor Day weekend. I took Thursday off my day job, and we already work 4 10s, so I had Friday off anyway. And so I had a 5 day weekend and did a little work in the shop, a little CAD work for a customer, and just really got to sleep in and relax and do all the things that I usually don't do, which was pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
So
No, for those that don't know, or pretty much everyone because it was off air, but Dylan joined the call and he was all energized. And I was like, this is unusual.
yeah, this is Dylan with sleep.
Yeah. I was like, what got into you?
yeah. But yeah, no. So Thursday or Friday, I had a order that like my customer had pushed off and pushed off and pushed off and said, "Oh, don't worry about it. We've got plenty of them." And they're just these band clamps that they add to an assembly to hold some parts. And all of a sudden, they emailed me and said, "Hey, can we come by and pick some up?" And I was like, "I'll just drop them off the next day." And so I whipped up a quick fixture that I sent you some pictures of, and I'll actually post on Instagram either tonight or tomorrow. That kind of grabbed these. They're 304 band clamps and held them really rigidly and only left room for the two holes that I needed to put into it, and was really quick to swap them in and out, or at least relatively quick for holding something that's more or less a spring and coiled up.
Were
Uh,
you doing two at once? It looked like.
Three at once, yeah.
Oh,
I really wanted to do like five at once, but I didn't have any pieces of spare stock big enough to put all the things next to each other
okay.
because they're kind of
That's
like
kind of
a
a weird part, though. You were showing me. I was so confused. Like, what were you showing me?
Yeah, no, I mean, all they are is they're like a standard off the shelf 304 band clamp that we make the mating parts to them, and they become this assembly that actually the whole thing together is just to ship one of their products very uh, carefully and securely.
Okay.
And so they at first they had contacted me because the other parts are these long bars that have kind of a V groove cut into them and some other features put into them. And at first they were like, "Hey, how much would it be to take all the ones you just made back and put more screw holes in them so we can use like socket head cap screws to hold the band clamps to the thing?" He's like, "Otherwise, like usually we just hand drill a bunch of these band clamps." I was like, "I can guarantee you it'll be cheaper for me to make a fixture and to drill these out for you," because like, he showed me some of them and they were doing all by hand
Oh,
and just like
geez.
burning up drill bits. And I was like, "I promise you, I can do a better job than this."
Yeah.
And so the fixture kind of, I mean, I'll show it. The pictures I have aren't great. I'll take some more later this week, but more or less the base of it has grooves that are maybe 2 or 3 thou bigger than the band clamps because they're all within maybe plus or minus one. And so the band rides in there, and then there's kind of like a large T nut that sits in that groove as well and holds it down and straddles it with quarter 20s so that it holds it pretty firm. And so I don't need to take the T clamps completely off to change the bands out. I just loosen it and slide the band out and then slide a new one in.
So do you use an end mill and helix that, or do you just drill it?
Just drill it. Yeah, I was using a Cobalt stub drill.
Oh, okay.
I mean, they're, I don't know, they can't be more than 60 or 80 thou thick, so it's really not much.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, it was fairly quick. I mean, even at the slow speeds it feeds, I would have loved like a carbide drill or something if I was doing a whole ton of them. But
Yeah.
for the amount I was doing, I was only doing 100 of them. That Cobalt drill should last the entire run and probably still have enough life in it to do a bunch of other stuff.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So yeah, it was quick and fun, and also the first job in the Brothers since the lights were installed, which was just like the best
Oh,
thing ever.
yeah.
It,
That's
it's
awesome.
it's crazy how not futuristic, but how modern the CNC feels with like LED lights.
Yeah. Like I like my analogy. It's probably like a surgery table now.
Oh yeah, 100%. And now I'm gonna look this week and figure out what voltage our current light in the kitty is getting, and if there's a power supply or if it's just running off of a board, and either run some more lights off of the power supply that's in there if there is one, or just buy another power supply unit and run a full other setup in the kitty because it's it's one of those small things that you don't really realize like what a big quality of life upgrade it is until you do it. But oh man, it was so nice.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely need to get that in your kitty for sure.
Yeah, so that's another small thing. I and then I ordered the 6-inch riser mount for the mist away for the kitty as well. So that should be here
Okay.
sometime this week because I think I said in the last podcast, like I went up there with the gasket that they supply, and I was like, I have zero place that I can cut a what is it, an 8x10 or an 8x12 hole, or maybe 6x8 even, but there's just no place for me to put that. So I bought the little riser. I think it's a 3-inch riser that goes down to the 6-inch hole you cut, and there's a few little mounting bolts, and I should be able to fit that on top.
I actually feel like I might even have that riser too.
You probably do because they market it for fitting the 6.5-inch hole that the Haas already come with.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have that.
Yeah, so that's what I'm going to end up using.
Yeah. No, once you get that hooked up, you'll never go back.
Yeah, and then the other thing actually that I ordered just today, and Grimsmo showed it on his Instagram today.
Is it the pump thing?
Yeah, I bought that like
Yeah.
immediately.
No, I literally screenshotted that and emailed it to myself because I was going to do that tonight too.
Yeah, it's like $70, and I constantly am pouring our whey lube into like a little glass jar. Like I have no idea
Uh-huh.
where it even came from, but we use that to transfer it then into the whey lube pump, and it's like just a giant pain, and it always spills, and I always have to clean it up. And like I saw that, and I was like, like, and what really bugs me is I've used those pumps a million times. Like the first
Yep.
shop I worked at, there's so many greases and lubes in a whey oil machine, and especially one with an air oil spindle that like I've used those so many times, and I don't know why I never thought to look for one. And especially at McMaster, and like yeah, the second I saw it, I was like, yep, getting one of those today.
So that's the McMaster item.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
actually I've got the cart right open. So if anybody's listening, it's 1318K16.
Yeah, I need to get that for my because I just use for coolant. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. So for coolant, I just use 5 gallon buckets, fill it up with water, but then I have to walk. It's not a far walk; it may be 20 feet from outside in. And then I got to take the 5 gallon bucket of concentrate. I dump some in and stir it up. And I was like, if I just put one of those on the coolant concentrate, I could just do a couple pumps, mix it up, and not even have to spill any, like you said, or make a mess anymore.
Oh yeah, well, and I'm sure once it's charged, it's probably a fairly consistent pump, so you can figure out exactly what you need to make your concentration, or at least
Yeah.
fairly close. I saw your story of having like 5 or 6 buckets full for an 18-hour run or whatever it
Yeah.
was. It's like
Yeah.
holy crap.
Yeah. I started that last night, midday, kind of yesterday. Um, and I knew that with that tool running for, well, it was the smallest tool was 16 hours of those 18. I knew it would just like evaporate all that coolant. Surprisingly, it didn't. Maybe it went down 10%, which wasn't bad.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, so I topped it off again this morning, ran castings, and then just like an hour ago, I set it up to do the other half of that 18-hour mold. So that'll be done tomorrow, and then back to job shop stuff. So it's kind of a cool alternation, between the two.
Yeah, that's really cool. I wish I had something that like I could just go into the shop, set it up, hit go, and then come back tomorrow and it'd be done. That would be super
Yeah,
nice.
just like a pallet of something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
that's why you need to get a product going, Dylan.
I've got one now that I've got a little bit of downtime. There's some not bookkeeping, but like there's a lot of little things in the shop that I've been really needing to do. A few of our customers are starting to they don't require ISO quite yet, but they, or ANSI or anything like that, but they want at least calibration certs, and
Okay.
like we can keep all of our own calibration. I just need to get my gauge block set calibrated, and then I can do internal in-house calibrations. But there's a online gauge, I think it's called, shoot, I can't remember what it's called. It's gauge something, gaugelist.net, and it's like a
Okay.
free online gauge calibration thing, at least up to 100 gauges. And then if you want like access to their app, it starts adding up money and things like that. But for now, that should be a good way to at least start moving towards that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
that'll be good.
yeah, so there's a few things like that. I want to get the roof on the brother going. In addition to that pump, I bought like some filter paper that
Okay.
actually Dan Rudolph had, I think he had shown in one of his stories or in one of his pictures. And so I asked him earlier today or late last week. And so that was also on my McMaster order, so I can line the brother. Because even with that filter that I put in a couple weeks ago, I'm still seeing like a whole bunch of fines at the bottom of that filter, and
Really?
I think it's starting to clog up a little bit. I'm not sure. I'm going to take it apart this week and kind of look into it.
Now, do you have a reminder somehow set to replace that plastic thing?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I know I have an extra O-ring for it, and I might even have an extra plastic bowl for it already. I'm not sure. I have to go look at my box.
Okay. Yeah, definitely make sure you replace that.
Yeah, after two broken ones like within a week of each other or something like that,
Yeah.
I I, I definitely will be.
Yeah, that's good though.
But besides that, I also just wrapped up. It's kind of a strange project, and so the before I go too deep down the rabbit hole without saying anything, so I through a friend of a friend,
Oh, Jesus.
there is a guy that wanted me to design, and well, he kind of already had a design, but he wanted me to CAD up and manufacture an urn for his dog that died I don't know how long ago, which just like was a really bizarre request. Like it was not at all what I expected when my friend was like, "Oh yeah, I got a friend who needs some manufacturing help." And so I finished up like the rough design yesterday and sent that over to him and got his okay. And so I'm going to finish up the design and get him a real quote sometime this week.
How
But
much is this earn? Like, does he realize it's not going to be cheap?
yeah. I mean, he already I was kind of the last place they turned to. Like he had already had one guy design it up, and it was just way too big too. Like I don't know where they got their sizes for it or anything, but it was gigantic, and they were going to water jet out these plates and put them all together to make the shape, with bolts going through it. And I told them, I was like, well, like I can do that, or I can kind of change the design a little bit and make it out of one piece of billet. And yeah, it was just like a strange request. And what was even stranger is that's not the first time I've designed an urn. um,
Oh,
I
geez.
I had another client, sort of. Yeah, I mean, we made parts for her. So another client that she was going through like a kind of finding her business stage where she was kind of exploring all these different avenues of what she wanted to do, and one of them was like high end urns for for a lack of a better term, rich people.
Huh.
And so I designed this like crazy urn for her and like got her pricing, and she wanted it like electrolysis nickel plated and
Jeez.
all of this stuff. And so like I had this giant proposal for her because she seemed really interested. And then when she saw the prices of it, she was like, "Oh no, I can't do that."
Yeah.
So yeah, but it was just kind of a funny full circle. It's like, yeah, this is not the first time I've had to calculate like interior volume of something to make sure it
Oh,
fits.
Lord.
Yeah, it's so weird. But so anyway, that one's kind of been sitting on my plate for probably a month and a half or 2 months now, and so it was like it felt really good to have time this weekend to sit down and do it all, and at least get him something over and see if he was interested at least this far. And so
Is it like cylindrical or is it like a box?
No, it's like a. I I'll ask him and make sure that I can kind of share what it is. But for now, let's just say it's not a traditional urn in any means. It is a specific shape that he wanted, and that's all I'll say on it until I kind of get his
Yeah.
go ahead and all that.
I was just trying to make a joke that you were getting a lathe.
Oh no, I wish. That's not
Yeah.
even a joke. I want a lathe really
No,
badly.
I know.
Oh yeah, no, not in the near future at least.
Yeah, we all get those kind of weird. I've had a couple of those. I don't even want to talk about the ones I've gotten, but you get those ones. It's like, okay, you do realize like this is not going to be cheap, and they're like, no, 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 I know, and it's like, okay,
Yeah, I mean, from everything that my friend had said and he had said, it sounds like the quotes he had gotten were at least as much as I would charge him, if not more.
oh wow,
And yeah, so I'm not really all that worried. Like, it sounds like he really wants this for his dog, and like, um, I'm not gonna like overcharge him or anything. Like it'll definitely be something that I not discount, but that I take into account that I kind of want to do weird stuff like that every now and again. Like
yeah,
I enjoy like those kind of artsy projects that are fun, and if I have the spindle time, like the nice thing is he's willing to wait. Like he's not in any rush. He has been very respectful of my time and understanding that like I have to make money first with my customers, and so I'm more than happy to kind of fit him in when I can, and give him a good price on that.
yeah. Just don't discount yourself, but don't go highballing just to highball.
Right, exactly. Like I know that I can get material for it from like the remnants room at IMS, and I know that like I can wait until I have open spindle time, and or a weekend like I just had where it's like, oh well, yeah, I'll go into the shop for a couple hours and knock this out, because it's none of it's exceptionally hard. It might end up actually the pocketing that he wants on the faces might end up being like a while. Like there's some really sharp corners, so I probably have to use like a 20 or 30 thou end mill in some of the corners.
That's a
But
big tool.
yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but besides that, like, yeah, I don't know. It's. I'm more than happy to play ball with him. At least, I guess, is the best way to say it.
Yeah, those are fun because normally there's no tolerance. It's like you said, it's more artsy. If it looks good, it's good.
Yeah, exactly. And it gives me a chance to kind of play around with interesting fixturing, or if I want to try out some tool path, like that would be a fantastic time when I'm pocketing out the inside. If I wanted to try both ways,
Oh
like
yeah,
that's totally when I would do it, because like whatever, like I've got time to kind of play with it, and if I need to stop it halfway through and change the tool path, like he's not waiting on it. If it needs to wait
yeah.
another week, he's okay with that. So
No, yeah, you should definitely play with that. That's a good excuse.
yeah, so but we'll see. Yeah, it was an interesting request though.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, that's pretty much it in my side of the world. Little the big thing right now is like shop upgrades. Like I've got another table on the way for the shop. I'm trying to really organize the shop, get everything a lot more solidified, so our workflow is good while I have this downtime, and that way we can really hit it hard.
yeah. That's the perfect time to do it. Are you starting to get any more work kind of lined up for the next week or so?
I've got little things here and there, but
Yeah.
nothing big. I think I'm gonna kind of touch base with all my customers, because a few of them, like when I dropped off the beginning of the band clamp run, he was like, "Oh, so you've got some time open? Well, I've probably got some stuff I can send your way then." So I think a lot
Okay.
of our customers knew that like everybody was slammed, and so they probably just haven't reached out.
Yeah, yeah. So you just got to start sending out your emails.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
No big deal.
So you obviously been doing mold work, like we said, and then you also had lots of learning over the last week. As we,
Don't laugh at me, Dylan.
I'm not. No, I mean like that. Those are the best jobs. Like when you learn a lot.
Oh,
Like,
I know. Yeah,
so, kind
I
of
learned a
walk us through it.
lot. Yeah, so I had 50 castings to machine, 54 actually. Four were extras that they gave, which was awesome because I used up all four. And then, so it was two part numbers. So 25 of one part, 25 of the other. Very similar. Basically, you had one side had threads, one side had like a counterbore and a through hole for a socket head cap screw. And I guess it's kind of weird going from like aluminum to like a stainless steel, especially a casted stainless steel, because like I feel like anyone can machine aluminum. If you just max out your RPM and like give it like a couple thou per tooth, like you'll be fine, you know. But like steel, like it's like, oh, okay, surface footage. Okay, let me actually think about this here. And I was doing like 150, 200 surface footage, and it's like the RPM's only like 1,000 or 2,000. I'm like, this is so slow. I was just like, I mean, I've machined steel in the past, but like nothing of volume, like one offs and stuff where it doesn't really matter. But all of a sudden, it's like this one facing operation is going to take 2 minutes. And I'm like, good Lord. Um, but yeah, I learned carbide drills are the best uh, compared to if only the people listening could see our DMing chat.
Yeah. You found out that they'll eat about anything.
Yeah.
Uh,
See, this is why I said no laughing, Dylan.
yeah, sorry. No, I was just remembering our conversation from last week.
Yeah, but luckily, like you said, MSC, if you order between, is it 5 or 6 is the cutoff?
I think it really depends on where you live, but I know for us it's 6 p.m. If I order before 6 p.m. and do the free upgrade to overnight, it comes from Reno overnight.
Okay, yeah, I think it was 6 for me too because I ordered some of those drills and a couple call-outs and stuff, and I just did that. It was like a checkbox. It's kind of hidden. You got to find it, but it's there. And I got it the next day, and I was making parts within like I want to say within 12 or 16 hours of me having issues.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, I don't like ever paying for shipping if I can help it, but
Yeah.
I mean, for like $12 to get something the next day, like even if it's one tool like that I absolutely need, I've paid $12 to ship a like $8 tap before
Oh yeah.
because I've needed it the next day and I've gotten it the next day and been able to machine that night. So
Yeah. So I haven't honestly ordered from MSC in a while. I just remember looking back at kind of like my bookkeeping and noticing I was buying a lot from them. So I was like, okay, I need to start making do with what I have and try to be as frugal as I can. Because, $200 there and, $50, all that stuff adds up really quickly.
yeah, oh for sure. And like another tip that I kind of forgot to tell you when we were talking, I can't remember who posted it or where I saw it, but if you actually look at a lot of the AccuPro drills, carbide drills,
Yeah.
if you go to their MSC link, because they're always like the cheapest one,
Yeah.
if you go to the MSC AccuPro carbide drill link, like whatever size you need, and you hit the MSDS sheet, like, I don't know, 70-80% of the time, it's a Kennametal drill or something like that.
Huh.
And it's in the MSDS, so you know that that's who makes it.
Okay.
So it's a kind of a cheat way to get cheaper name brand drills.
Interesting. I think MSC owns AccuPro.
They do, yeah, they
Okay.
do,
Yeah.
and like they're very hit or miss. Like some people swear by them. Brad, my business partner, like at the shop he's worked, they use uh, a fair bit of AccuPro, or at least they have in the past, and they've had like drills that have come in that aren't heat treated,
Huh.
and they'll just like bend,
Oh,
like hit,
what?
yeah, like crazy shit. And like
Whoa.
yeah, and like end mills that just don't cut right, and but then there's some that are total winners, and like it's strange. Like
Yeah.
MSC does some interesting stuff. Like a lot of their weird chamfer tools too. Like it's the Made in the USA brand. I don't even know if it's a brand or they're just saying that it's made in the USA. But like
I know what you're talking about, though. Yeah.
I've ordered those and gotten Harvey tools before.
Huh.
So like on the 304 part that I finished a week ago, 2 weeks ago, there was a hardened steel engraving bit that I really wanted from Harvey that I didn't have time to wait for the shipping, and I didn't want to pay for like overnight. And so I ordered the made in the USA one that sounded exactly the same as the one that I wanted. And lo and behold, it came in and it was the Harvey tool that I wanted.
That's weird.
Yeah. So it's kind of a guess. I mean, I guess it's like ordering tooling from McMaster where they don't give you any name brands, but very often it is a name brand, but it's like
Yeah.
whoever they wanted to source from that time, or I don't know if it's whoever's cheapest, or I don't know how they decide, but it seems like MSC does very similar stuff.
Yeah. One thing I did learn because I had to look up some speeds and feeds for the end mills I had on hand. Luckily, I was able to use, I had some half-inch tools, 4 flute, and then some 3/8 4 flutes that were good for cutting steels on hand. So it saved me some money there. But I had to look them up, and they were Niagara cutters, like the blue containers.
Mm-hmm.
And I called them and I'm like, I need some information on this. And they're like, well, what site are you on? And I'm like, Niagara. And they're like, you need to go to Seco. And I'm like, why? And they're like, so I didn't know this, but Seco makes Niagara cutters. And then Seco is owned by Sandvik. Um, and there's like all these other, like, it was just really weird to learn that, like, I knew that Sandvik had a huge kind of like, what's the right term for that? Monopoly on the kind of the tooling industry, but I didn't know that they owned Seco.
Yeah, I think they also own. I don't want to be incorrect, but I want to say that Sandvik also owns Walter Titex,
Okay.
which they were actually just talking about on Machinist Therapy today. But I can't remember. Somebody owns Walter Titex because I was looking at a. Yeah, okay. Sandvik does own Walter, who owns Titex drills, and so because Sandvik owns a ton, like they are absolutely massive.
Yeah, and it's just kind of weird thinking about that now because going to IMTS next year, it'll be weird walking around and being like, well, technically half this room is Sandvik, so
Right? Yeah. No, they it's amazing how much they own because they also own. I can't remember the tooling software that they own, but it's one of the larger, like tool crib, tool ordering, data
oh
driven softwares on the
yeah,
market. I mean, it's big stuff that I've looked at before, and yeah, it's crazy.
yeah. So I was just little tidbits there and here and there. And then as far as like drilling and tapping the steel, honestly, the tapping was fine, other than me being dumb and grabbing the wrong drill.
Well, you freaked me out because you were like, "Oh yeah, it's a 5/16 24," and then you had me gut check your code, and I was like, "Yep, that's right for a 24 threads per inch." And then
Yeah,
the second time you said it was an 18 thread per inch, and I was like, "Yeah, no, that's the wrong code if it's
yeah,
18."
yeah. And then right when, like, I don't know if it was when I read your text or when I was just like waiting for you to text back, and I was like, I walked over and I checked like the tap box, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm dumb, and I was so learned that. But seriously, those carbide drills are like, I'm shocked without even spotting, like they are just nailing the with pins, like just nailing the diameter.
Oh yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah.
They if you have them in a decent collet, like they have almost no run out. They drill completely straight for the most part. They're great. Like I try to
Yeah.
use carbide drills, especially in steel, like anytime I can, for sure.
Yeah. And they're just more rigid, I found, for sure, especially the stub length.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, for what you were doing, there was no better way to do it.
Yeah. The one thing I did run into, I don't know if you saw my story, I kept getting chips wrapping around my drill.
Yeah, that probably means you could have pushed the drill harder.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, that's. I mean, unless you're like hearing some nasty noises or something, that's usually my go to is turn up the chip load and start actually snapping that chip off versus letting it wrap up around the tool.
Okay. Because I was like, I mean, I couldn't hear it at all.
Yeah, then I'm sure you could have increased the feed and been totally fine.
Okay, because I did notice I might have. I think that makes more sense because I was probably going too slow because I checked the tool after I made all the parts and it was kind of chipping at the end. I mean, it was obviously still working, but it was on its last leg.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad it made it through the run. I mean, that's what you bought it for, and if it served its purpose, like yeah, it'd be great to be able to run at another job, but can't always do that.
Yeah, and so those parts are done. I just did the op 3 today. Like it was like a 6-minute runtime, and the customer gave me the Fusion file, and I checked the speeds and feeds. And he told me like we ran this super conservatively because we didn't want to break this Harvey 60-degree keyway cutter, and it's 2 keyway cutters, and I don't blame them because those can't be cheap. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I think we talked about those last time. They've got to be $100 something a piece.
yeah, so I took their speeds and feeds and even dropped them because I didn't want to have to pay for it because I already wasn't making much off of this job and I did not want to break this tool. So it was a painstaking 5 minutes and 30 seconds per part times 50, which was like 5 hours of just kind of doing your thing.
Yeah, it's still not too bad though.
Yeah, so I knocked those out and I got a lot of other little like shop things done, programming done while it was doing its thing. But I'm hoping that the castings, oh yeah, that was one thing. The castings were just out of spec because there's the part spec and then there's the casting spec, and they weren't even close to the casting spec. Um,
Really?
yeah, the casting spec was like 30 thou, oversized in all directions. Okay. And like some of these were like 50 to 60 thou out.
Jeez.
And that's why, like, me and you were talking, like, I had to measure each part and like group them and constantly adjust my offsets, which worked, but it was just a pain to have to like worry about that. And
Yeah,
then I
yeah. I
think
mean,
what had happened was because it looks like a U, the part is like a band and it looks like a U. And what I think happened is during heat treat, that band like opened up because they're all different size. And if you actually measure it with calipers, one side of the part will be completely flush against, one side of the calipers. And then the other side, it's like there's a big gap and it looks like, like a pie slice. So it's like just kinked open, I think.
yeah. I mean, that's totally possible. Castings suck, and it's like good casting houses are harder and harder to find.
Yeah.
So,
So I'm
it
going to
happens.
deliver those tomorrow. And then I'm already quoted them to make the parts out of just billet because there's the casting part, which is, what was it, 15.5 H1150 or something like that, stainless. And then the alternative material that they had machined it before was just 4340. So just out of billet. And I'm quoting them on doing it just out of blocks again. And I'm curious. I got really competitive with my quoting to try to see if they would bite. And I'm just going to be like, hey, if you want 200 of these, it'll be this price. Um, because I remember them telling me how much they were paying just for stock. And
Mhm.
I don't know where they were buying their stock from, but my machined part's going to be about the same price they were paying for stock. So
Oh wow,
I'm hoping that'll make them say, oh, hey, let's just have Payton do these.
that seems so strange to me that they would spec out 4340 as the material for the billet version rather than just 15.5. Like 15.5 you can buy,
Yeah,
or like 17.4 or something. It seems a little bit closer than 4340.
I don't know. I know that this part's doing a lot of, it's keeping two parts together, and it's basically a pressure chamber it's holding together. So I don't know if there's some properties that I'm unaware of.
Yeah, I don't know. That seems strange, but
Yeah,
if it works, how hard is the 4340? What's the print say?
I'd have to check. I don't know off the top of my head, but it would be heat treated.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so hard milling.
Yeah, shouldn't be too bad though.
Yeah, we'll see. Just kind of, I figured might as well quote them and see what they say.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the parts are definitely easy enough that like I think we had talked about, you could create a multi-station fixture if the quantities are large enough to really make it worth your while.
Yeah, and that's why I would tell them like, okay, you have to get a minimum of 200 because anything less is just not worth my time.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
exactly.
and I like I did this for this job was your NRE that you told me about, and I love that idea. So I've been using that concept a lot lately.
Oh yeah. Anytime my customer says like, "Oh, this is gonna be coming back," or "This is something we order this many times a year," or something like that, it's like, well, I'd rather show you what I can actually make the part for, but also charge for my time for making the fixtures if I can. I don't. I toe that line between making them pay for part of the fixture and just amortizing it into the part because I don't want it to scare them away. Like be like, oh well, there's $1,000 in fixturing, you know.
Yeah.
So, but it's always a good way to get some money out and for them to feel like, oh, okay, this is a one time thing that we'll pay up now and we'll reap the rewards down the line.
Yeah, and it makes them kind of feel obligated to come back because they're like, "Oh yeah, with Dylan, we already spent $500 on a fixture. We need to go back and get our money's worth."
Yeah, exactly. It just makes more sense. Like
Yeah.
I had an NRE charge on those band clamps because
Okay.
I knew I was going to be making a fixture. He said that they run through, I don't know if it was 100 or 200 a year or something like that. So if I made a repeatable fixture that I know I can just load back into the machine. I have a origin, bore in the center of it. I made an extra teak slot clamp in case I crashed it or destroyed it or lost one or something like that. Heaven forbid. And I covered myself. They feel covered and happy. So it'll all work out.
Yeah. Yeah, but other than that, as far as these castings go, they're done with. I learned a lot. Didn't really make a lot of money, but it's kind of one of those things. It's like kind of a favor to get them out of a jam, and maybe this will, the next time when if they get their castings figured out, or if they want to just machine them out of billet or blocks, they'll say, okay, Payton helped us out. It's just one of those things you do and hope that you get that reward down the line.
Yeah. I mean, if you treat your customers right, they'll treat you right, or at
Yeah.
least you hope. And if they don't and they screw you over, then you probably don't want them as a long term customer anyway.
Yeah. So it was just a good learning experience, and I got some cool tools out of it that I might be able to use for other jobs. So
Oh, they're letting you keep those?
not the key cutters, but like all the drills and all that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So yeah, the key cutters, they actually gave me some tool holders like I was showing you. So that was nice. I had to only buy like one collet. There was like 5/8 that I didn't have.
Yeah, that's great. That's
So
Yeah. Overall, it seems like a really good learning experience. Like steel's a lot of fun, but it as my business partner says, the steel is real.
oh yeah,
You
it's
know,
no joke.
yeah,
Yeah, but I would love to get honestly, if I could get this job and machine them from blocks, it would be, I think, a really cool job because I got it. The casted parts, it's like a one, two, it's like a three, let's see, 3 or 4 op setup. Um, and I got this one down to, I think it was just 3. So, like, I saved an operation doing something. I can't remember. Actually, I saved 2, but I checked Helical's website for some of their like 7 flute end mills because I know a lot of people talk about those, and I even think, are those the ones you used on that stainless job?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
like they are fantastic.
Okay. Now, my question I was going to ask you is I went on their like milling advisor and put
Hmm.
in the tool number and filled all that out. And I mean, it was giving me some numbers, and I had a Dylan moment because I was like, this seems really fast.
Yeah, I'm looking for my 304 speeds and feeds right now, and like I cut them back even from what Helical recommended, and I think I was running out of rigidity more than I was running out of what the tool could cut.
Do you think that was because of your 30 taper?
Yeah, I think it was the 30 taper, the fact that I had to hold the part like in a fixture, and like the fixture was fairly rigid, but it wasn't as rigid as holding it in a vise or something like that. But I think a lot of it just had to do with hanging it out of a 30 taper and trying to take aggressive cuts.
Was that a half inch or a 3/8?
3/8.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't gonna try to go crazy with a half inch in steel.
Yeah. Because I was looking at a half inch 7 flute, and I think they were recommending like, I want to say 50 thou step overs, full depth of cut at like 90 inches a minute.
Yeah, so we were. Hold on, I've almost got it open. I think we were full depth So we ended up at 300 surface feet and 3.5 thou per tooth, which was like 70 inches a minute.
Okay.
And I think it recommended, if I remember right, like 350 surface feet and almost 100 inches a minute.
Yeah, this one was recommending like 90 inches a minute, something crazy.
Yeah, but if you've got a 40 taper, I think you'd have no problem pushing that. And like realistically, if it seems too fast and you want to start slower, just turn down those knobs that say tool deflection versus no tool deflection, and then there's one that's like tool longevity or time and cut versus speed.
Yeah.
And if you turn those down all the way, it'll drop the numbers quite a bit. And then you can even pull the rigidity slider down to like the lowest and start with those numbers.
Okay.
And that should cut the top end off of it at least a little bit so that you can start lower. But honestly, if you're grabbing that thing tight, I don't think you'd have any problem.
Yeah, I was just gonna. I don't know. Could you hold 4340 and Talon jaws like and just treat it like aluminum to an extent, as far as just gripping it with like 80 thou?
Depends on how hard it is.
Oh yeah, that's true. If it's heat treated.
Yeah, because if it's harder than the Talon jaws, you're not going to get any bite, and then there's no point.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, yeah, the other thing to consider too, it's not a consideration on every machine. It really depends on how fast your machine processor is. But like if you're doing an adaptive, the minimum radius. Well, let me find the exact name of it. The minimum cutting radius is set to like 10% of the end mill usually on an adaptive or high speed machining or whatever you want to call it from your software.
Okay.
It's the smallest radius that the tool will like do a helical move in or like
Yeah.
a tricoidal move in. And I usually bump that up to 15, if not 20% of the cutter. And
So
that
much
prevents,
larger.
yeah, because that prevents it just from like trying to take a super fast cut in a tiny radius and squealing or breaking it or something like that. Like even on aluminum, if I'm going real hard with a rougher, I'll always bump that up to 20% and then just come back in and either just know that I have that little extra in the corner or something, but it takes care of any kind of weird little squeals or chatter or anything like that.
Yeah, because that'll eliminate it from kind of sitting in one spot, rubbing on a more surface area of the material against the cutter.
Yeah, well, and unless your machine can actually accelerate and move like 200 inches a minute in a radius that's with like a half inch ml, a 50 thou radius, it's going to do some weird things in the corners and cause like a spike in load that you're not expecting.
Yeah.
So at least I'm sure some of the newer controllers and the high end machines out there will have no problem with that. But for a slower machine or like my machines, like they chug through code pretty well, but just as a safety, if I'm running like I said, 200 inches a minute with a half inch cutter in aluminum, I always bump that up to 15 or 20%, and then I have no issues.
Okay. That's a good thing to note.
Yeah. And realistically, with your machine, it's brand new and using what, G187,
Yep.
you might be able to get away with it and it might not be an issue, but it's also, I don't know that it's worth the price of a cutter.
Yeah, that's the thing.
So, yeah, I don't know. I'm always a little skittish doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I know with my machine, like for example, oh, that's one thing I need to go check actually, now that I thought about it. The G187, I always have on the fine setting, and then I change, there's a radius setting. I think it's setting 85 or 95 in a Haas that it defaults to 25 thou, but I always set it to 5/10 for mold work. And now that I think about it, I think the mold I'm running right now is not set to that.
Oh, geez.
But I think it's still in the roughing op, so I'll catch it before it does the finishing.
Yeah, there you go.
So, but yeah, that's one thing I'm always constantly playing with.
Very cool. So what do you got going on this week? You're doing some more mold work. Do you have more job shop work coming in, or?
let's see. This mold is kind of like a rush mold, and the guy wants it's for a really tiny overmolded part, so two color part. You could probably fit two of them on your, maybe three or four on your thumbnail. Um,
Oh, geez.
and he wants about 2,500 parts, and he needs them by like the 12th would be ideal, but like the 14th is like the latest. Um, which should be totally doable. The mold will be done tomorrow if all goes well. I'll have to finish the mold, do any finish work that I need, and then I'm just going to start molding parts. So the reason this one's taking so long is because it's on the one mold face, it's 24 cavities. And
Oh, geez.
so you have 12 cavities of the first part, and then you take those, clip them off, and then put them in the other side of the mold and do the over molding. So there's, a total of 24 cavities. And so it's just a lot of surface area for those little tools to cover. That's why it takes so long.
So is this something you're doing in your injection molding machine?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So this will just be on the littler one. The big boy machine, I'm still waiting to check on some voltage things in the cabinet, because that's what boy's having me check so they can help diagnose what's going on with that. But
Oh, that's good. I didn't know you were finally getting some help from them. I know last we had talked, you were, at least the way I understood it is, you thought your only option was for them to come out for like 5 grand or something like that, or something stupid.
yeah, that was kind of where they left it. But I just flat out told them, I'm like, I can't afford to do that. I mean, I could, but do I want to? Not really.
Right.
Um, unless, see, the problem is, like, I don't have anything that needs to be ran on that machine right now, but it's, something might come up and it's going to be like, okay, now I have to spend that 5 grand. And I rather slowly try to pick away and fix at it now while I'm not in a rush for anything.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. Preventative maintenance or maintenance when you don't need it is the right thing to do.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at with that machine. So,
Well, good.
and
I'm
then
glad
as
you're
far
getting
as like,
somewhere.
what's that?
I'm glad you're getting somewhere with it at least.
Yeah, it's kind of a slow burn, but it's getting there. And then as far as job shop work goes, let's see. Tomorrow I've got to drive like 30 minutes away and pick up that brass for that coaster. Um,
Oh, right. Right. Right.
yeah, so that took a little bit. It took a little bit longer just because of like Labor Day and all that, but that was to be expected. Luckily, the customer's in no real rush, so I'll probably get that tomorrow and then start programming that up. That should be pretty simple. And then I gotta like 110 of those to make.
Oh, awesome. That should be fun.
Yeah, so that'll be like kind of like your earn, kind of an artsy project.
Yeah, those are, like you said, they're just a ton of fun. Nothing super tight tolerance, nothing stressful about it. Just like you get to play, I guess is the best way to describe it, you know?
Yeah. And he's like super local, a couple minutes away. And I was going to get a couple of them going. And then once it's running smoothly, he wanted to come see the machine. And he's looking at getting, I think, either a Tormach or like a mini mill. And I was trying to push him more to get a mini mill if he can. And he wanted to see my machine running. So I was like, yeah, if I get it, once it's running, I'll give you a call and you can come take a look.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. So that'll be cool.
Very cool. Well, I'm glad to hear that things are moving along.
Yep. And then I think, let's see, that'll be kind of this week. Next week, I have another potential job that I'm kind of waiting to hear on. So, and then a bunch of other little like product ideas I have that I'm slowly prototyping, but it's kind of, yeah, it's basically the next couple weeks are kind of lined up, which is kind of cool.
When's your next Lego show?
Let's see, actually in a month from now. Yeah, October 3rd.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Where's that
And
one at?
that one's just local in Seattle.
Oh, and you said that one's one of the biggest ones you go to, right?
Yeah, by far.
That'll be great.
Yeah, and I got to get back to UV printing some stuff because I'm like out of stock of a lot of product, and I was just waiting for some parts for my printer, and they just showed up today. So I got to figure out when I can squeeze time to come up here and print some parts.
Do things pick up on in your local one, especially with the holidays so close too?
Yeah, I would say so.
That's good. It's a good
Yeah,
time of year.
yeah, it's a really good time of year, especially for the Lego side of business for sure.
Awesome. Well, yeah, everything's looking up then.
Yeah, so I'm excited. This is always the fun part of year for me, especially now. It's, let's see, 2 months away, and it'll be a year of having my machine, which is kind of crazy.
That's really cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
I can't believe that it's already September. This year has really flown by.
yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Well, I think we should probably cut that off there. But definitely, everybody tune in next week. We've got our second guest. I think everybody has, or not everybody, but many of you have probably seen Saunders's tour of or tour with Adam DeMuth, and he's going to be on the podcast, and we're going to be asking him some questions and finding out more about his backstory and his own shop that he now runs.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk to him about his Mori, that little machine he has. That's a cool machine.
Yeah, it is super cool. I was watching his Instagram stories today, and it every time I see a little bit of it, I'm just impressed.
Yeah, super cool.
And thanks for everybody for sticking with us. And I think we're kind of starting to get into a groove more. I'm really enjoying our weekly talks and getting to share with everybody.
Yeah, and it's cool. I haven't done this, but I want to. I want to go back to episode 1 and listen to it and just see what we were talking about.
Yeah, same. It was really cool. My business partner Brad, he never listens to podcasts,
Yeah.
and he went up to his family's cabin this last weekend and like binge listened to the entirety, like all 9 episodes. And
Oh, really?
yeah, it was pretty cool. Hey, Brad, if you're listening, but
Yeah.
yeah,
That's awesome.
it was really cool to have him join in and listen to everything.
Yeah. And then I did notice on iTunes we got a couple of reviews. So thank you. I read those really nice reviews, 5 stars. So if you guys haven't done that, definitely go over to iTunes. And like I always say, post on Instagram stories. That would be great. We always repost those. And other than that, I think we're good to go for episode 10.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Have a great night.
All right. See you guys.